Martin, I think we can start off. Collins, are you on call?
Please go ahead.
Thank you. Collins?
Okay, I'm back.
You take the seat and proceed.
All right. Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you.
The others, welcome back from lunch. Hopefully it was a nice one because we're now getting into something a bit more exciting, than the previous session we had. For this session, we are going to go into whiteboard animations. So recall earlier in the day, we talked about the videos, screen recordings, and then some kind of animations which can be used to sort of convey a message way better than just a traditional PowerPoint slide, PDF, or a recording. So let me share an example of what we expect to design. So I'm going to go to YouTube. I hope we can all see my screen. It will just take a few seconds.
We are seeing your mail instead.
Just give it a second.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So when you talk of whiteboard animations, we talk of something like this. So like I was telling you, I'm sure you've seen videos like this where you have some sort of minimal animation. You have someone sort of scribbling different images around, scribbling a few words here and there, trying to sell an idea to you, trying to make you understand a given topic. So this video here shows you a perfect example of a whiteboard animation. As you can see, it is something to do with real estate. It is to do with the real estate, and the creator, Amit Buswas, is sort of trying to create this small animation. I think something like 1 minute. Oh, it's okay. He created like a small animation where he shows you what is involved. Give me just a second. Let me make this better. Start.
Hello, I'm Arthur, and I buy houses faster than anyone in town.
Well, this is much better.
Are you in need of a cash payment for your
At least you
house
can
in
see
its
the
current
drawings on
condition
there. You can see his hand
or
moving around.
circumstances?
You can
So
see
quickly,
the wording that he
no
puts
one would buy
around.
your home in its
And
current
that
condition?
sort of helps
Or
you
maybe you just don't want to
recreate
go
a
through the
traditional
time
class
or
feeling.
hassle
At
by
least
listing it.
there is some
Don't
little bit of
worry, I
interactivity,
will buy it fast.
and the student
Call
may
me
feel,
right now. Here's how it works.
like he's
Call
there
me.
with the
Tell me
lecturer,
about your property.
okay, or the
I'll come to
instructor.
your property
You may
right
feel
away
that
with
you're
a
writing
paper
on a
wheel.
blackboard, as most of us are used to. So today I'm going to show you a tool that sort of helps us, not even sort of, that actually allows us to create these kinds of animation. Unfortunately for this particular tool, it is not an open source. Okay, so what I'm talking about is Video Scribe. Video Scribe is a really nice tool for creating these whiteboard animations. But unlike what I showed you before, it isn't open source. It is something that you have to pay for, a license. However, the bit with it is that at least we get a free trial. So I would love that we get a volunteer out there who would at least allow us to use his email to create an account on Video Scribe. Once you create this account, we're now going to enter it into the software which you're going to install. Now, for those of you who haven't installed, let me send you the link. Again, just check the chat room. For those who earlier went to the e-learning portal, I shared that there is a file, an activity, an action there, which has sort of different links. So that link is going to take you to the Google Drive folder, and in there, you'll find a link to Video Scribe. I've shared it in the chat room right now. You can click it, start the download. As soon as you're done with the download and with the installation, you can let me know, and then I guide you along the rest of the way. So for now, I already downloaded the file. I'm going to show you how you would install it. And then I'm also going to show you why we need an account. So from that point, we'll be at least now in position to decide what to do. We could either use one or at least one volunteer's account, or we could carry on and I just show you exactly what you need to do. Now, I already have it installed here. I'm just going to close it. Okay, so let me also log out here. Don't want to bias. Okay. So here we are. This is the homepage of Sparkle, who are the people that provide us with Video Scribe. Now, to get to this point, you can simply go to Google. You'll insert something like Video Scribe. You know, just like it sounds. You could say Video Scribe, download. Video, the normal video, then Scribe, like, you know, a scribe in the Old Testament or something like that. Once you get to this point, just click the very first. Let me zoom in a bit here. We are going to click this first link on the results page. Okay, once you're done with that, it will open and get us back to where we started. Okay, so at this point, what you want to look out for is free trial. Okay? Because there are other ways to get these tools, but they're a bit illegal, and I wouldn't want to promote piracy, you know, online. So I'm going to show you the right way to do it. So here you'll click free trial. And now for the free trial you get, you're going to get 1 week. Those are 7 days from, you know, the moment you enter that email. If it's today, just know Wednesday next week. So could I have a volunteer? Could someone, you know, just give us their email in the chat? I use it to create an account. And then from your side, because I already have an account here, on your end, after installing this Video Scribe, I would want you to now use the new account to enter it and then, you know, try to manipulate things around. So could I get, okay, I've gotten jillwevze@gmail. Once you get here, what you want to do is click Start Free Trial. It's going to request for these. So let me quickly create this account. Email jillwevze.com. I'll ask you for that. For the password, I'm going to use, you know, the password must be strong, must contain at least 8 characters. So if you look down here, you see the guidelines for the password. So let's say something like Joseph. I don't know if that's clear enough for you. But basically, pay attention to the password. Most people have issues with passwords. It's just like the ones with learning management systems. Usually, you want a password to be as strong as possible, such that you reduce, you know, chances of hacking and things like that. So by using Joseph123#. Now you want to click I agree to the terms and conditions. Sorry, it's a good habit to read through those. And then afterwards, you'll click create your free account. So now you wait a bit. If this account has ever been used, or this email has ever been used to create an account on Video Scribe, it definitely will not allow. Hopefully he hasn't done it before. So as it signs in, as we sign into his account, what happens is after you've created an account, usually an automatic download starts. So that automatic download is going to send you a file. Oh, I think I have issues with my internet. Oh, what's wrong? Again, as this gets resolved, I was saying usually get a download an executable file. So in my case, I usually use this IDM downloader. My files will go to within this the downloader window. And then if I right click here and try to go to the folder, which is the folder path where my file has been downloaded, I'll find it right inside here. Let's give it a second. Dear colleagues, I seem to have an issue with my network. Give me about 5 to 10 minutes. Let me first switch my location and then get back to the training.
In the meantime, we can have
So I'm back, colleagues. I'm back. I hope you can all see my screen and also hear me clearly. To Miss Lydia in the chat, you're currently downloading Inkscape. I think for this particular session, I would prefer that you download VideoScribe because this is what we're going to use for the whiteboard animations. So again, let's quickly create this account that we tried to create earlier. I think because of my internet, somehow it wasn't created. So we're going to cut that, put it there. So you click that, create the account. Okay, now you see the password is too similar, so we could do something different. Let me just say the word university 2021. Okay, perfect. So the account is now ready. So what you do in this case, after you've gotten to the point where you got to the folder where you got the VideoScribe, okay, like I said, the download folder for most machines isn't the same. In my case, my programs usually come directly to my downloads folder, compressed, and then program. Okay, if you're doing it using a different, maybe if you're using the browser to download, what you want to do is click this hidden menu icon, that's the top right corner, select that, and then click downloads. For some browsers, you could also use the shortcut, which is Ctrl-J. You click that, and usually you get the downloads over here. Okay, so from there, you simply, in this case, for example, this, I'll simply click that and it will open. If you had the downloaded executable file here, you simply click it and it will open. In my case, my VideoScribe file is within the folder where my other programs are saved. So I'll click enter. Give it a few moments, the installer shall begin. So I can close this, close that, focus on this one. So again, I'm going to share the link that you can use to get VideoScribe in the chat box. Simply check there, the one I've just sent with VideoScribe, videoscribe.co/en/. That's the correct link to go to. So after the installer starts, you'll see this wizard, the installation wizard. You want to click next. You can read through. The default installation folder is usually your C. Go to the C partition, then program files, Sparkle. This is the company that creates the product. Sparkle VideoScribe. Click next. Now, in my case, I've already installed it, but for you as a new someone who has this tool already on your machine, it would simply, go ahead. So you can click yes, you click install, it will run the install, and then at the end, you can click finish. In my case, I already have projects that I've been working on, so I won't do this because it may overwrite whatever I have installed, and then I end up losing some of my work. But at the end, you expect to find something like this. Click the finish button to exit the setup. So you click finish. So at that point, what you want to do, if you're running it on Windows, go to the start menu, click the Windows button, and then usually if it is newly installed, you'll see it up here. You could simply search for VideoScribe. Okay, if I search for VideoScribe, you can see it. It's over there. You can open it from here. You could just click the icon. You could search for it using any other search tool that you're comfortable with. But what I usually want to advise people to do is once you install it, at least pin it to the taskbar. You can, if you click here, pin to taskbar, you'll see it quickly gets attached here. So you want to at least pin it to the taskbar here, or at least pin it to the start. So in my case, I have it, if I click here, I have it down here. So whenever I want to get to Video Scribe, I don't have to bother typing so many things. I can easily and quickly access it. Now, I don't know if anyone has successfully or if anyone is currently downloading Video Scribe. Let me check my chats here. I see no comment on that. So once you're done installing, you want to click that. It will open. Remember what we're talking about, white space. There's a lot of white space involved here. And then okay, Miss Namaweji would want to know how to download again. Okay, let me give it just one last shot. Close this, close that, close these unnecessary files. So you remember, I don't know if I should go through the account creation again. I think it was pretty self-explanatory and simple. But at the point when you're done creating your account, okay, you'll be presented to this screen. Your free trial account is ready. To activate, install that. So when you scroll down here, you have options. So if it was a Mac OS computer, you would have Mac on side. You'd have Mac here. Since I'm using a Windows machine, the browser detects the operating system I'm using and so provides the appropriate installation tool or the appropriate installation file for me to use. In this case, it's this one. So you click that. Like I said, personally, I use a download manager. And that download manager, allow me to do something here, maybe to make things a bit easier for you. My download manager sort of likes to install things in a custom folder. So if I go here, just look up, you can see the path to which my file has been installed. Okay. So in this case, usually for me, whenever I download things, they go to my partition E, they go to downloads. I have compressed, I have another folder within compressed called programs, and then I have Video Scribe. So expect to see something like Video Scribe 64.msi. If you're using a 32-bit machine, you should also see something like Video Scribe 32.msi. Okay, let me select this, the name, and copy it and place it. So the name is there in the chat box. That's the name of the installation file. Give me a second. So that's what you should expect to see. Okay. So now after installing, what I would do here is simply open the folder. If you're using any other downloader, most downloaders at least will give you this option. You click open folder, and then it will browse you to the correct folder where your work is. Okay. Now I was saying that in case you're using a different kind of, you're using, let's say, the browser. By browser, I mean, Google Chrome, Mozilla, whatever it is. If you don't have a special downloader and you're using the browser to download, usually you want to go to the top right corner, you go to downloads and click this. Alternatively, you can click Ctrl-J. It will automatically send you to the downloads folder. Once you get there, you want to scroll through the downloads at the moment. Currently, I've only downloaded using the browser. I've only downloaded this, which is a training program. Okay, so you can see that there are some other files that I downloaded earlier, but I kept deleting files in my machine. However, the principle is the same. Once you see a file there, you simply click the file name and it will open. So if I click the file name, this opens. If again it was let me go to my downloader. So my downloader opened this folder. Once you click open folder, it will take you straight to this. It's even selected here. So now it is up to you to right click. Okay, and then you can click install. But again, like I said earlier, I'm talking about how to do it on Windows. So unfortunately, I'm biased against Mac, and I don't have a Mac computer where I could illustrate that for you. But at least I know the principle. If you use Mac, you know how you install Mac, you know how to install software on your computer. So you'll follow the instructions there. And in case you get lost, again, this is being recorded, so you can always just go to YouTube, check out the recording, and follow the steps I've gone through. So to Helen, I hope I've really answered and at least tried to throw more light on that. So now after running, let me at least just do this one last time. After you click this, you open it, you expect this installation wizard. From here, you click next, have a look at the installation path. You can still just click next. Like I told you, in my case, I wouldn't want to do this because I already have the file installed and I have running projects. However, in your case, you still click next, and then you will see it installing, and then it will get done. And then finally, you should see a page similar to this. So in this case, you see interrupted, but for you, you will see successful, blah, 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 click finish button to exit the setup. Then you click finish. So now we are done with the installation of the Video Scribe tool. What we want to do now, let me check. What we want to do now is now to start working with our projects. So like I said earlier, you could always, a good habit for you. And then now this icon, this is the icon that you should now also add to your taskbar or to your start menu. This is the icon for Video Scribe. So once I click that, you expect it to open. I hope you're hearing me. So once it opens, you remember the account you created, you're going to insert that account here. So you'll put the username there, you'll put the password there. See, I don't know if that is better. Can I go even higher? So I don't know if you can see this clearly. I have a magnifier up there. So if you look at the very top bit of this recording, you should see a sort of a magnifying lens up there. So you can see I used each20.std, which is an account I just created from a volunteer student here. When you go to just down here, this is the password. Again, remember the password we inserted the other time. When you go down here, just choose the language, because that is English UK. Remember to click this, and then finally, click login. So if you've done everything correctly, you should be faced with this screen. Of course, like I said, I have some existing projects, so you can see these are some of the video animation, some of the whiteboard animations I've created before using this tool. What we want to do now is to create a new file. And to do that, you want to look out to the left panel. You see the very first button up here, that is create a new scribe. So you click that. And once you click that, it will take you to this. So now this is where you're going to do all the, you're going to do voiceover. This is where you're going to do the doodling itself. You know, by doodling, I mean the hand drawings of whatever illustration you want to use. So usually what you want to notice first when you get here is you have the interface is pretty different from so many editing softwares. So if we start from the top left over here, you have the save or export tool, which I'll use this later when you're done at least doing a few minutes of our work. To the bottom down here, this is going to be now the timeline, okay? Whenever we add content, you're going to see it down here. Then it will be easier for you to even get a clip, throw it behind, throw it in front, stretch it, make some adjustments to it, you know, make some different, you can add videos, you can add text, things like that. And now those different content types that you're talking about can be accessed over here to the bottom right. So for instance, you can see add new image. If you wanted to add an image, you'll simply click that. Next to it, you will see add new text. If you want to add a text file or some wording, you're going to click that. If you want to add a chart, okay? Earlier we talked about infographics. So charts are some part of infographics that help you to represent information in a better, concise, and you know, organized way. So you can click that and then fill in your values there and have a chart installed. If you look up to the top right bit of the user interface over here, you have Scribe music. So now this tool allows you to add music. Like we did with the podcast earlier, you could also add background music. So the beauty with Video Scribe is it's got a very, very, very big bank of, you know, videos, of images, of sound clips, things that you can use, and most importantly, things that you can use freely, okay? So the other thing I was talking about earlier about copyright issues when it comes to images is when you use audio files, especially if you just randomly go to YouTube and pick a file, maybe a song, and then you use it for your class. Sometimes for some sites, for example, I could give an example of Facebook. If you go and upload something where you don't have permission to use it, or if you go and upload a licensed file with a soundtrack to some musician out in the US or in Europe or wherever, your file, your video will be pulled down immediately, and then you'll be warned. So here, at least when you click this, you're going to be given, if you see, it's really small, but if you look up there to the magnifying screen, at least you can see Adrenaline Junkie. So these are sample, you know, files that you can use to add to your content. And all of these are royalty free. So you don't have to worry about copyright issues. So when you're done with that, you also have now the voiceover feature over here. So this icon allows you to actually do a voiceover in real time, and you link that with the graphics works that you've been doing. So for example, like I showed you earlier in the YouTube video where someone is illustrating how real estate works. So you have drawings of buildings and money and all that. What you want to do is accompany that with a voice where you're explaining what is happening in the video. To do that, you simply get over here, click that button, click the record button like we did earlier, and then you sort of begin following your video and make sure everything is in line, is in sync rather. So we'll do that a bit later. Over here, you have background options. So you can choose what kind of background you want. You know, you don't necessarily want it to be white all the time. Sometimes you want to put in a little color. But again, you have to remember the design concept, the design principle that we talked about earlier. If you choose to use a dark background, for example, what color are you going to use for the words? What color are you going to use for the shapes, for the illustration that you're going to use? Okay, you have to put that into mind when you're choosing what background color, what background option to use. Down here, you can say you have a vignette, you can choose to add a soft vignette, you can choose to add a hard vignette. But again, every time you add these extra features here and there, you need to be careful and you need to consider how whatever effect you're using is going to complement the other content types. For example, like I said, if you make the background dark and your text is also dark, is it really going to be clear for the student? Is that what you want? Finally, now there's this fancy tool. This is what now gives it the whole whiteboard animation, the whole classroom vibe, you know, approach to it. So if you click this button over here, you're going to see that you have some hand choices here. Okay. So you have pens, you could choose to use just pens to write. You could choose to use these hands over here. So you have different people's hands, different skin tones. I don't want to use the word racist, but you can choose. For example, it's not racist to use a black hand, because you're teaching, maybe you're doing a presentation to students in Africa. It's really up to you. So for example, you could choose that, and this is what the animation is going to look like, okay? So if you feel this hand is appropriate, if you feel this color may work for you, it is okay. You just simply click that. And for every now design that you're going to use, we're going to have that hand. So I now want us to use the same principles to sort of try to design a whiteboard animation for the class we had earlier in the day, which was rapid e-content development. Now, there are two forms you could do this. Okay? For example, like we did earlier on, we had a PowerPoint presentation. However, you could say, maybe I've had too many PowerPoint presentations. This time, let me give the students an animation that sort of is more detailed. In that case, what you want to do after creating a new scribe is, of course, you start with the title. Okay, so to do that, you want to add text. You come here to the bottom right, click the add new text icon, and then you get to this window. So in this window, you will see you have the font type. Okay, you have the font style. You have some extra fonts you could use. You have the alignment over here, and you have the color. Okay, so what's important here is to remember again the principles of design that we talked about earlier. Things like consistency. Okay, so for instance, you're talking about a heading. A heading needs to be something bold, something something thick. Let's go. Let me look for. Let's do this. Laundrina Solid. It's actually a good choice. So you want it to be, black, which is thick. The title was Rapid E-Content Development. You can select that, center align it, and then you want to choose the color. Okay. Now, like I said, for matters of consistency, things to do with patterns, when you're designing your work, you want to be as consistent as possible. You also want to follow the theme or the brand that you're using. If you're doing something for Reform, for example, Reform is a bit brownish, okay? The theme color is a bit brownish. So you would want to go for something like this. If you're designing something for 8Tech, you want to use, that light blue, that sky blue. You want to use that little green, that, tint of green, things like that. So in this case, I'll just go ahead with this. And now for every other heading, we'll make sure we use this same color. You click OK. So now we have the very first title, which is Rapid E-Content Development. What you want to do is you go back down here to the bottom right. So the way this whiteboard animation works is you get an image, you put it at a certain point on the board, then you stick the camera to that particular position, or you record a keyframe for those who are into animation. From that point, you slide away from the screen, put something else, stick it there, then you just keep moving around the screen. So I'm going to illustrate that in a bit. Once you're done inserting this title, you want to click this. So this is what I was talking about. You're setting the camera to a particular position, which is more like setting a keyframe. Okay, so if we click this, that means if I added something else here, let's say outline, maybe because outline or learning objectives or something of the sort. I'll say okay. So you see the word is this course outline is here. And then I move this. I simply need now to click this new word, or the new could be a picture, and then freeze it in time. So we are freezing the new picture at this point in the whiteboard. Now, if you go back to this, remember, like I told you earlier, this timeline is sort of sequential. So whatever comes first is what the camera is going to focus on, and then you move on to the next, onto the next, onto the next. So if the first item was this title, you see up here, you have these play and pause tools which can sort of help you to have a preview. So this is the preview currently have. From the title, Then we move to content development, sorry, course outline. Then it will go back to that. I don't know if that makes sense. Once you understand that concept, it becomes very easy to do anything that you want to create within this video scribe. So again, let me delete this. Let me delete everything. So what we want is a title. We come down here, click that icon with a T. We get to this point. We choose what we want. So you have a multitude of fonts over here to look through. Of course, we already made our choice. We like this Londrina Solid. So I'm going to say rapid in content development. Okay. You may choose to make it thicker, but the theme by default is this font is already thick. So you want to align it center. Again, this alignment doesn't always have to be center. It really depends on the style that you're going for. So if you want, for example, if you choose to align your things to the left using the design principles, and you always want maybe images to the right, you can do that. There's no harm in doing that. The other thing to care about is now the color. Like I said, I think we chose something like this. Now, if you work for an organization or your institution, you can always ask them for the color codes. So normal color codes are given in hex values. So you'll see something like this. So this value is the precise, I would say, the color code for that exact blue. So if, let's say, your company uses something like 66B, and click OK, you can see that is some light green, lime green. So if at all you're in touch with your designers or your marketing or your multimedia department, you just simply ask them for a color code, you insert it here. That way, everything you're doing is going to be consistent with the brand. Everything you're going to do within your work is always going to be consistent. Sorry, Helen, I can see, I think I'm leaving you too fast. I'm leaving you behind. Could you let me know at what point you're stuck so that at least I move with you? At Helen. Okay, someone saying all is okay with him. I'm going to try to be a bit slower. Hopefully, I wouldn't really want to leave anyone behind. Okay, so I was saying, let's assume we've just started doing our work. This is the very first page, okay, which would be ideally the cover page of a PowerPoint. In this case, this would be something like our splash screen for the recording. We insert that you're working on. So, like I said, let me double click over here. Okay, let me just do it again one last time to make sure everyone is on board. So to the bottom right here, you have these icons. Click text. Once you get there, you choose the appropriate font. By choosing the appropriate font, enter the title. So in this case, it's that. I said once you get from here, depending on the style that you want to use, you could choose how to align your work. In this case, I want to align my work in the center. Also, once you get to, after doing that, you want to choose what color to use. When it comes to digital, a lot of these digital content types, you want to be consistent, and that is consistent with the brand that you're affiliated to. If your university, for example, has theme colors like blue, green, yellow, that is what you always want to use. In this case, my organization always uses this light blue, okay? And I was saying that If at all you don't find the color that you need in here, you could always ask your designer, your graphic designer, your multimedia person for a color code. Okay, so those who are into web design will always use these color codes. These are hex values to give us, the precise color that you need. In this case, like I gave an example that you could change this, like say 98, D52, and this is the color that I'm going to get. Okay, but in this case, I'm comfortable with this, with the blue. So I'll just click the tick, and then automatically, whatever image or text that you create is going to come to the middle of your whiteboard. I hope that is okay. Then I also say that from this point, what you want to do is you want to freeze the camera in time. That usually on the timeline down here, you're going to have multiple thumbnails representing different items that we're playing around with, or that we include in the whiteboard animation. So what you want is every time the camera moves from one thumbnail, from one image or one text file to the next, to the next, to the next, the camera is going to keep following the position of that particular text file or the position of that particular image. And that is why I said I wanted to illustrate something. So for example, previously I used text. I want to now demonstrate it using an image. So we've inserted this. We could say maybe it is a bit small. Let me resize it a bit. You click these corners and then you expand it. So this is similar to almost every software. If you want to expand something, you simply click the corners, pull it out, you click those anchor points and something bigger. So now what you want to do is freeze the camera at this point in time. So while I have this text selected here, while I have this text, the heading selected down here, I'm going to go to the bottom right. I look out for this icon with a tick. I know if you look up here, you can see it. So that is what I'm clicking. I click it to set the camera to the current position. Okay. So after I do that, I will see the camera's position. This other icon activates, showing me that we've taken the position of the camera at this point. Okay. So now let's say I want to add some other image, an image to sort of illustrate what multimedia or maybe what e-content is all about. I'll click this, which is the add new image icon. It's the very first one. It is on the bottom right. So if I click it, like you will see, it will open up this window. So this window allows you to sort of, you could choose. So like you can see over here, we have a bank of so many different animations, so many illustrations. On the right here, these are the recently used ones from my previous projects. Okay, so I'm just going to take one at random just to help you understand. It is not really related, but at least to help you get the idea of what I'm saying. Now we have this, what is this? Oxen. Okay. So again, what I'm going to do is we now need to set the camera position to that. However, I may want the screen to move from this in the middle, and then maybe I want this line to now be somewhere. Sorry, the ox to be maybe somewhere up on the screen because I want to now make some other illustrations about it. Okay. Actually, let us make this whole thing about agriculture so that it is much easier for me to move around with. So let's say, let me edit this. To edit, you'll simply double click. You simply double click this. Then you'll go to edit text. So from here, you could also, let's say groundnut growing. Then you click that. So it is immediately adjusted to that. Okay. So I want to say maybe plow the land using oxen to a fine till. What I would do in that case, after I add this file here, I go pick that, add it there. Let me delete this one so that we don't get confused. I want to click this, the oxen here, and pull it down. okay? So when I pull it down, you can see that we are leaving the whiteboard. But that's not to worry. You see, this space it's infinite. It will never get done. So if you click on the side here and you just drag your mouse, you will see that you're dragging everything along with you, okay? So you have an infinite amount of space to draw and illustrate and draw some more until you're just done. However, what I was saying was, after you move, let it back up. After you drag the screen, you want to click this and then set a keyframe. Okay, you're setting the camera to this current position. So initially, remember, the camera was in the middle focusing on groundnuts. We set that position. Then we added a file. So after adding the file, we dragged the file to where we want it. Remember, we're now considering the other design principles, proximity from this. So maybe I want it to be a little lower here. And then I also set a keyframe for it. So let's say we wanted it to be something like this. So you click that, set a keyframe. If you want to delete a keyframe, for example, if I moved my page somewhere like that, and accidentally I clicked this, that means if I go back here and start this animation, this is what we expect to see. It will start groundnut growing, but then unfortunately it will now make the drawing to the side, which may not be what we want. So in this case, what you want to do, you'll stop, select the file, or select the image or the text where you feel the camera was off, go down here to the bottom right, click this middle one. You see the icon to the right. That's now just killing the keyframe. So now you want to click on the whiteboard, click away from the image, just click on the whiteboard and drag it to wherever you feel you want your image, or you want the camera to focus at that point in time. When you get to a point where you feel you're comfortable, click that, which is the image now, the one that has no keyframe, and then colors. So maybe you want to change this color, or you want to change any attribute associated with this particular text file, but this particular word. You could simply double click it, and then you get these text properties. Okay, so from here you can edit it. You could change the wording. Maybe you may find that you are not happy with whatever it is that you wrote. You could change filters. Yeah, for example, you could give it a glow. You could make it bright. You could change the contrast. When it comes to the drawing options, remember we talked about that scribbling bit. So that scribbling bit is controlled by drawing options here. Okay, the speed of the animation, for example. If you click over here, you're going to see a preview of some of these changes being effected. So for example, if I click here currently, you will see that we have 5 seconds of the animation. If I click here, you see that? It's a bit slow, yes? So ideally, if you're writing groundnut growing, you would be much faster than this. So you reduce. You can say, no, let me go 2 seconds, and then you preview again. So I don't know if you saw that. So that is far more realistic. Once you're done with that, just click OK. Now that is with the text. Again, image files also have some properties. So if you want to make some modifications to how this this the aux comes in. Again, you just simply double click it. Then you choose, for example, now here, when you go to the drawing options, you can choose, do you want to draw it? Do you want it to just fly in? Do you want it to fade in? So drawing is why I use the other arm. Moving in, it will simply slide in from either the diagonals, the corners, or it will move on, it will move in from the left, right, top or bottom. We can illustrate that here. Let me see this. If you click that, just give it a second, you can see it sliding in. So that is sliding. If you want it to fade in, you could simply click fade in, and then you click that. So there you see it, that smooth transition into the whiteboard. If that is what you prefer, you could simply just leave it selected in there. Again, you could come to the animation here. So one thing you have to pay attention to is the animation time. Usually, if it is an image, you don't want something to go for more than two seconds, unless it is really a big image. If it is something now, something small, you're drawing a person, you're drawing a building, you're drawing, let's say, like a cow, something like this. You want it a bit faster, okay? Because usually whatever you're saying, as you're making these animations, you're also talking. And sometimes you may be talking pretty fast. But if this animation goes on for 8 seconds, your video in the end is going to be too long, then whatever it is you're doing won't be synchronized properly. So now let us add something else. So from this point, we could say we want to add arrows, okay? So I'll click over there. I will get back to this window. So from this window, you can choose. So you could say, maybe let me go and check through the arrows over here, and then you look through what is available. Okay. So there are two options to this. You could either use what is available within the system already, or you could go ahead and import something that you wish, maybe something you feel illustrates your point better. So once you click any icon or an image in that window, it will automatically come down here and appear, like I said, in the middle. So it is now up to you to resize. Okay, you want to resize that. If you look over here at the top, you can actually rotate it. Okay, so you could do something like that. You can click and drag it, and you'll move it all over the screen. So again, maybe now we want to do some little manipulation with this. We'll double click it. You get over here. For example, you can see the animation time is too much. You cannot have 8 seconds drawing just an arrow. So you'll click that and reduce it. You could say, I want it to be drawn for 1 second. You enter the 1 second in there. Select that. Then, of course, you will get to this point where now you choose the drawing style. How do you want the arrow to come through? Do you want it to be drawn? Do you want it to move in? Do you want it to fade in? Do you want it to move? In this case, I think drawing is appropriate for an arrow. So you click OK. From this point, again, we now go back to the keyframes. You want to lock the camera to that arrow at that particular point in time. So to do that, you will come down here to the bottom right. Then you click this icon that sets the camera to a current position. Then you click that. So now, let us give it a go. Let's preview from the start. So to do that, you're just going to go up to the top right. I'll look out for this play icon and click it. So it's a bit faster now. You see it scrolls, the ox appears, and then we have it drawing. Yeah, that's better. So I don't know if Helen, are you still following? I wanted us to now get back to what we're doing earlier in the day, without necessarily, just using these examples. I wanted us to now recreate what we did with the rapid equator development, but using the actual images we used, using the actual, objectives we had. You okay? Okay, perfect. So let's try to recreate what we did earlier. So in the earlier in the day, we had this. So like I said, we now want to edit this. We'll simply double click it. We'll go to edit text. We'll go to rapid e-content development. The color is appropriate. We are okay with the font. We're okay with the alignment. You could check these other options over here. I think we're okay with them. The drawing hand, we chose the hand we want to use. We could choose any other hand we want to use, but it's fine. So we click that. So that is our title. From our title, we don't want to go to this cow. Okay. Usually from the title, now you want to either introduce the learning objectives, you want to introduce the outcomes, maybe the outline, whatever it is you're going to study within the day, based on a script that you made beforehand. So in this case, let me just delete this. You could say, maybe, let's have some sort of outline, okay? Some expectations for what we're going to study today. So to do that, we could do something fancy. Let's add some sort of chart. So to the bottom right here, you click image. And then now we're going to look out through these various pictures here. So what do we want? What do we want? We want a backdrop? Not quite. Maybe we want a board. So if you want something and you can't figure out where to find it inside here, you could simply just come here and then type what it is you want. So I want some kind of board, be a black board, a green board. You type it there, then you hit enter. So if you're using internet, it's going to go and check their bank to see if they have anything appropriate for you, and then give you a list, sort of present it to you through these thumbnails over here. So you can scroll through these if you find something you like. Let's say this, I like this. So you select what you want, okay? So you have this, okay, he's a ninja, not very appropriate. Let's click that, get back. We'll search for board. Give it time to search. Get over here. Select this. This seems okay. Then you want to stretch it out, okay? So once you're done with this, remember, we want to phrase this keyframe. So you click here to set the camera to this current position. And then you want to double click here to change some options. Things like how long it's going to take to appear. So again, I see 8 seconds is way too long for just that drawing to appear. You could say 2 seconds or just 1 second. Once you're done with that, you click OK. You're comfortable with the colors, you're comfortable with the drawing hand and everything else, you click OK. So from this point, now we want to begin introducing the students to what they're going to study. So at this point, our first topic was an introduction to e-content. So you would click here to add text. Okay. So from there, you will say introduction to e-content. But you're now going to consider the other things we're talking about. The font, for example, is this font appropriate in this case for a subtopic or for a subheading? Okay. So it is quite similar to the heading. So we're going to look for something else. We look for, let's use Alice, for example. Okay, this font looks much lighter, which would be appropriate in this case. So we could say this is e-content or digital content. Once you have that, look out for the alignment. Now for this particular case, I'm not going to go with the center alignment. I'm going to align them to the left. To do with the color, again, I may choose a lighter shade of black. I may choose a different color, but because I want my things to be a bit more professional and I don't want it to be overly, colorful, I'll still stick to black. So I click OK. Give it a few moments, and there it is. Okay. So now we have our very first objective. Okay, so in this case, for example, this seems to be a bit small. I'm just simply going to click the anchor points on the sides to widen it a bit, just until that point. So again, remember the principles of design: balance. Try to balance the space on the left, space on the left here, space on the right, space down here, space up here. This is your drawing canvas. You don't want to push something, to the left or to the right, and then you just have a random space doing nothing over there. So now we are going to come and double click here. We want to edit the settings. Let's first go back here. We want to edit the settings of this title. So double click here. I hope I'm not too fast. What I'm basically going through is something which we've done, I think, 3 or 4 times already. So I have a preview here of how long it would take to write that statement. By looking at 8 seconds, how long would it take you to say introduction to e-content and digital content? You're going to take something like 2 or 3 seconds. And remember, we want to synchronize our voice to the images on screen. So again, you'll go to animate here and reduce the seconds to maybe 3. Then you click OK. Then you'll go down here and click OK. Then you want to move this content to exactly where you want it on the screen. So since it's the very first one, I want it up here, and I'm going to click this. I'm going to set the keyframe, so I'm going to click that. After I set the camera, I could go back here, have a preview, and I appreciate what I've done so far. So we have the title, we have the drawing over there. Then we have the introduction to e-content. Okay, that is okay. So I just push back here. So what you could do in this case, we have so many other titles to include here. We have about 1, 2, 3, 4 others to do. You could, before we get to those, maybe let's add a bullet over here. So simply come here, select that. You could come over here and type bullet. And then you hit enter. Okay, so we could pick on this bullet, or you could use any other that you're really comfortable with. I'm just picking something that they can quickly get and use. So again, to play with the properties of this particular image, we'll double click it. You get to this point. Check out the animation. Is it okay for you? Is it short enough? Is it long enough? So in this case, this is something very, I don't want to take a lot of time. So I'll say 0.5 seconds. Then you could also now check these other filters. Are you okay with the blur, with the contrast, with the brightness? In this particular case, we may not need that. If you want to change the color, you could also change it from around here. So if you want to change this entire thing, simply go and select silhouette, and then you choose from here. So again, in accordance to our theme, we'll choose this blue. Click OK. Everything looks good. We click OK here. Now, you have to remember to also now set the camera to this particular position. You click that. If you look at it from an overview, it looks good. Okay, but remember, I said earlier, this timeline works in such a way that everything is sequential. Whatever frame you see here only comes after the previous one. So in this case, if we're to play this right now, let me go here, play that. Okay, we're okay with that. We're okay with that. You see this. So ideally, we would want the bullet to come first, but in this case, because it is ahead, it has come last. So how do we fix that? We simply click and drag. So you want to click this, the item that is sort of out of sync. Click it and drag it behind the text here. Okay. So now if you go back to this point and then play, you should see it's much better. So we start that. We have the board there. Now we start with the bullet and then the introduction. So again, we can make some Let me balance that. Let me get back there. One thing I saw was it took some bit of time from the time it drew the bullets, the transition to the word. So I'll simply double click here. Look at the transition time here. So you could even reduce it further and say 0.5, because you don't want to spend a lot of time between drawing this bullet and the wording. Once we're done with that, this is a trick that you can use for sort of duplicating these items much faster. So you're going to get down here to the timeline. Give it a few seconds. You hold the very first one of the thumbnails. I don't know if you see it. Okay. Then you hold Shift on your keyboard and click the second thumbnail. So once you do that, you will see that the content up here has been selected. Okay. Once you're done with that, you're going to right-click, copy, and then you're going to right-click again and paste. Okay. So once you do that, you'll see that a copy down here has already been created. And while you have it selected, you'll simply click the down arrow so that you have everything still synced up and aligned properly. So you can see that we've now gotten our second point. Okay. And once you copy and paste, you're even copying and pasting the keyframes, which means the moment the camera gets to this point, it is not going to change until everything you've copied and pasted is through. Now let us get to the next point, which was introduction to multimedia. I'll simply double click there, go to edit text, and then here I want to type introduction to multimedia. And then you click OK. Okay. So once you're done with that, of course, you see it has moved a bit. So you want to push it back to the left. You can use the arrow keys, you can use your mouse, you can use a trackpad. Whatever it is that you're doing, you simply need to realign the work. Okay, of course, we're looking at the design principles again. So everything we do here sort of follows some design principle. In this case, we're looking at the alignment. We want them to be in the same line. We want them to look, to be spaced properly, so that at least we can see some organization in what we're preparing. So I'm going to rush through the next ones. Let me go through the chat room and see if anyone is having a hard time. Okay, I think everyone is good. So now we are going to just, again, copy and paste. Okay. While you have it selected, you're going to click the bottom arrow to move it. But like I said, again, you can use the mouse. Like here, I'm using a mouse. You can use your trackpad, whatever pointing device you're using. I usually like to use arrows because at least I know things are either vertically aligned or horizontally aligned. You get. But if you use your mouse, sometimes you may move it just a bit off, especially if your site is not that good. So the next thing is digital design tools. Okay. So we'll do that. Digital design tools. We're okay with the font, we're okay with the color, simply click next. Once you're done with that, we want to click the left button to make everything aligned again. And then I'm going to move really quickly here. I want to go down. I want to change this to principles of design. Okay, you click that. We are done with that. Is it aligned properly? Yes, it's perfect. Then now we select this. We copy, right click, paste. So now this is our last one. Okay. So this was it was an assignment. Okay, so it could be assignment or it could be just any other objective. Okay, depending on how you want to set up your animation. And then of course you want to align it properly. So at least we're now done with the introduction to the class, to the module, to whatever it is that you want to teach. However, looking at the design principles, like you can see there's too much space down here as opposed to this. So we want to balance it out. And to do that, you're going to click this very last item or element, hold Shift, and then click the very first one. So that may be a bit tricky right now. You may think I'm moving too fast, but with time, you'll get used to it. So it's the same as clicking this, and then I hold Shift and click this. I'm just doing a multiple selection. If you're familiar with how you manipulate things in Windows, then I'm sure you know how to do this. I'm not sure if it also applies to Mac, but I imagine you know how to do a multiple selection on Mac if you use a Mac computer. So I'll click the very first objective. I click the very last one, and then I'll use the arrow keys to sort of move them, readjust them. The other thing you could do, once you have everything selected here, if, for example, you don't want the camera to move from the time it starts, from the time you start animating the very first bullet to the very last text, you can simply kill all the keyframes here and you click 1. So now when you click this keyframe here, it is going to set the same frame, the same keyframe across all the different selected objects. So again, now let's go back to the beginning, make sure everything is good. We could just have a preview of what we've done so far. So we have a rapid e-learning content development. We have the board there. We have the very first bullet. So it's an introduction to e-content or digital content. The next one, the introduction to multimedia. The next, digital design tools. So again, you may notice that since we use the same duration for each of these lines, some are faster than others. For example, if you're writing principles of design, you may not need to use 3 seconds. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're simply going to come in here to make a few edits. So digital design tools, the short sentence, it shouldn't take too long. So I'll go to drawing options. Shouldn't really take 3 seconds. Let's say 2 seconds. And we'll say, okay. We do that. And then we'll get to principles of design. I'll double click it. Like I said earlier, if you want to make any changes to the principle, to the properties of this, either the text, the audio, the video, the chat, just simply double click the element and then you'll be able to access them. The other thing I saw is the chat was also coming in a bit too fast. So I'll double click on the chat, make sure it is selected. I'll get to the animation and increase the animation time to maybe 4 seconds. I'll click that, and we are good. So let's make a quick preview of what we've done so far. We have that, the title is good. It moves in. We get to the board. The board holds our bullets and our learning objectives. That looks good, looks realistic. Introduction to multimedia. The time is okay. This looks okay. Yeah, maybe I've also noticed that this last one is taking a little bit too much time. So 1.5. So you may wonder why I'm paying too much attention to the time, the duration here. The reason for that is that we're going to do a voiceover. So when you do a voiceover in real time, you're going to basically begin voicing the animation that you've created. So if you take too long, for example, if I say introduction to e-content and digital content, and I've used 2 seconds to say that whole statement, and yet the animation here takes, let's say 5-6 seconds, you're going to find that your work is not synced up properly. You're going to find that you're overly going to have delays. You're going to have making unnecessary excuses, or you're going to have to repeat everything once you're done with creating the animation. So what I want you to do, what I want you the instructors to get used to is to keep running these short previews. So, for example, we've made so many short previews that from this point up to the very last objective here, we are good. We know we have no issue there. So now we want to now move on to, let's now introduction to digital design or digital content. Okay. Remember when I said we have an infinite amount of space. What you want to do is make sure you have nothing selected here. Just click outward here. You see this white space. Click and drag. So when I click and drag like this, it's like you're sliding a big piece of paper. Okay, you can choose. Remember, the movement you make is going to determine the transition and where the camera is going to follow. So if I want the camera to go to the right, I'm going to push this content to the left. If I want the camera to go down, I'm going to push this content up. Okay, so you're basically just sort of doing the opposite of the camera movements that you want. So if I go back down here, let's say in this case, I want all this content on the side, push it all up, make sure it has disappeared out there. And then now I have a new work area. Okay, so now you're going to choose how you want to start. Our topic was introduction to digital content, of which I think the first thing we're talking about is how challenging it is to find an appropriate way to deliver content to students as if it was a physical class. So to do that, you could choose to start with a subtopic, a subheading. In that case, again, you just simply add a text file, a text element over there. Then we'll say introduction to digital design. Sorry, to digital content. I remember we said we need to be consistent. So we go get our brand color. We want to align our content in the middle. So we do that. We may choose to have another font to represent maybe all subheadings. We click that. And then we have introduction to digital content. Okay. So you have to remember that the moment you insert this element, you come here quickly and set the position. You insert a keyframe. Now, again, this style is really up to you. So some people may prefer to have these headings to sort of demarcate different portions of their animations. Others may just wish to jump straight into it. In my case, I normally like to segment them so that at least you know that from one point you've done this, you're moving on to the next one. It's also easier for you at least to keep track of what you're doing. So I could say I want this to now go. I always want it to be maybe up there, so that whatever animation goes on here, the learner knows that they are at this point in time, they're studying about the title that you put up there. In this case, introduction to digital content. Like I said, the very first thing was the instructor talking about how difficult it is to instruct students online. So we could get an image here. Let's go back down here, click image. So maybe we want a classroom. And you hit enter. Or a teacher, or something which is sort of going to bring in that element of online instruction versus traditional kind of instruction. So we have quite a number here. We could use which one is appropriate here. So this, let me click here and see if there is something better. Okay, let us use this picture. Is it taking so long? Okay, so you have this illustration of a teacher. This is, of course, a traditional setting. Before you forget anything, you make sure you come and click this the keyframe, you set the camera position, and then now we also want to include another image. So the next image you're going to bring in here is one that sort of illustrates now this new digital virtual online class. I saw something around here. Let me see. Let's do, okay, actually I've seen a better image. Let me click this. So let me delete this one for now. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to spend so much time looking for really appropriate pictures. I'm just going to get something which is close to what we need, just to get the point across and to make you at least understand what exactly I'm trying to illustrate here. So this is a traditional class setting, and we're making a comparison with an online class setting. So it's a classroom. And then we select this, okay? So if I forget, I have to set the keyframe, then I'll get over here, and I'm now thinking about what I want my students to think about at this point. So if I were the one teaching, I would say one challenge to online instruction is finding the most appropriate way to offer content to students as if they were in traditional classroom setting, or they're physically together in a classroom, okay? So in that case, I could say maybe I want this image to come first. So I drag it over there. I double click. How many seconds do I want it to come through? So I could say I want it to be drawn in 3 seconds. Usually when you're voicing, you're much faster than you think. So I want it to last for 3 seconds. Right after there, I want to get this other image. So I double click on that image. I'll go to just these properties here, animate rather. I'll give it maybe 2 seconds. Say okay. And then now I want to relate these 2 images, okay? And to do that, I could use an arrow, for instance. Okay, maybe an arrow and a circle. So to add those, I will simply come and add an image here. Let me see if there are any shapes here that are open. I could say shapes. Okay, so we have a circle. Let's hope it doesn't frozen. So anyways, as it closes up that image, what I'm trying to do here is basically show you how we can relate these 2 images. So from this point, if we simply play like this, okay, we have an introduction to digital content, which is our first subtopic. From there, we'll go down. You have that. So at this point, you could talk about how something to do with online instruction, and then compare it with traditional instruction. Okay, likely it hasn't frozen. So what I was trying to illustrate here is, if I get a circle. Okay. So you could say Let us give it a keyframe there. Let us double click it. Let us reduce the duration that we are going to have it animated. That would say 1 second. And then we get back here. Okay. So this one, we actually need some more time. You could give it 5 seconds. And then you click OK. So you see. Thank you. One challenge with online instruction is that it is difficult to find maybe the most appropriate way to deliver content online as though you are physically in class with students. Then you have that. So if you're voicing over, you see that what I was saying matched exactly what was going on in the animation. Okay, and the goal here is to try to be as close to in timing as you're designing this the whiteboard animation. Try to put into consideration the time it will take you to say something, the time it will take you to explain something, the time it will take you to move from one point to another. Okay, once you have all that considered, it will become much easier for you to make some of these animations. So from here, we're looking at the common e-content types. We have text, we have images, we have graphics, audio, video. So we could say down here, let's add another image. Now in this case, I have some images that I used in the text file, that I used in the PowerPoint presentation. So instead of choosing what I already have here, I could simply browse or import the pictures I already have. So you click this, you see this icon? It's in the bottom left. So you click that. Now you can import something from your computer. In this case, I will browse to, let me browse here. I'm talking about text. So for text, I have this PDF snippet. I'll click OK. So it comes through here. Then now you're going to select how you want it to appear. Do you want it to fade in? Do you want it to be drawn? You could preview here in the drawing and see whether it fits the purpose of what you want. If you're okay with this, click yes. So I'm okay with that. That is a reveal, and I'm fine with it. I'll click that. Now we have the text file over here. So you can resize it, you can make it bigger, you can make it smaller, you can play around, you can rotate it. It's really up to you. Okay. So the more interactions you have over here, the better usually it is for students. So again, we need to lock it here. We need to set the camera to this position. So you don't forget to click that. And once you've set the camera position over there, you now choose how you want to continue. So you could say, I want a picture of text. I want a picture that represents an image. I want a picture which represents graphics. And I want maybe a picture which represents audio, and then I want to present video. Or you could say, instead of having all those pictures, I'm simply going to write. Okay. So again, to write, you could just do this. And then you say, I've already talked about text. Now, no, let me just get another image here. Okay, so I have that. I click yes. Once I have it in here, I resize it. I can choose to rotate it a little bit. And now you have that. So you have this text over here. You have a representation of an image. You could choose to bring in graphics here. You could choose to bring in audio and video. Or alternatively, you could choose to write the rest. So you say maybe graphics, audio, and video. Then again, remember, we need to be consistent with our brand. So we are going to choose the font we used earlier. We are going to choose now another font for the content. We already have a font for the heading. We have a font for the subheading. Now we need a font for the content. We want it black. We want it aligned that way. I don't have to worry. So sorry about that, I lost my audio. I hope this is okay for everyone. Slowly by slowly. Yes, so again, not to worry, you're going to have recordings of this. Yeah, for the very first time, it's a bit challenging for you to get used to this software. But once you do, it is a really, really nice software. You'll be able to be as creative as possible. You'll be able to create so many little nice animations for your students, for presentations, even for academia. Okay, so you're presenting maybe a thesis somewhere. You could present something that sort of talks about your conceptual framework better than maybe on that particular day you may be out of sorts, maybe anxious and things like that. But you'll have prepared a file some days prior, which is going to illustrate what you wanted to mean. Okay, so I'm guessing we are back and everyone is together. So at this point, maybe one bad habit that you should avoid is not to save. Okay, and I've actually just done everything here without saving. But usually when you don't save, the software is good in such a way that you have this auto recovery. So even if power went off right now, I'll still get this work. However, that's a bad habit. So what you want to do at this point, at least after a minute or so, you save your work. So to do that, you're going to go to the bottom, to the top right, top left, click this save or export icon. Okay, so you get to this point, under scribe name, you click, what do you want to call it? You want to call it introduction, rapid content development. So I will say rapid content development. So this is not the name of the video. This is simply a name of the project file. You don't have to worry about the nomenclature for the actual video. Once you're done with that, you now choose where you want to save your work. Usually I like to categorize my work in folders. So in this case, I will say I'll call it perform training. I click that. So we have that folder in there. And now everything associated with your scribes is going to be saved inside there. Once you're done, you click save. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So now we are good. So even if power went off, we are double. We have the auto recovery, but we also have the actual script, the actual scribe saved somewhere. So from this point, I see I'm running out of time, and if I really wanted to illustrate something, so I'm not going to move so much into what we did earlier. I'm simply just going to now try to explore the other features we have so that you have a feel of what everything does. Now earlier we talked about the background music, okay? And I said if you want to add background music to your work, there are those royalty-free soundtracks which you can use to add to your soundtrack to make it a little more lively. Okay. Now to do that, let's first finish the backup. To do that, you want to go up here, that scribe music icon, the very first icon. You click that, and now you want to choose. So you have a number of genres of music in here, all of these royalty free. You just need to choose the appropriate one. So if you're teaching something that is, funky, something that is so exciting, you would choose something like pop. Okay. Then you play and have a listen to it. I hope you heard that. So for matters of just, getting through with this, I'm going to add this. So you select it. What you did was a preview, but now to select, you just click this, select. So you want the track looped. What this basically means is if you have a very long class, some of these clips are usually short. Okay, most of these clips. So for example, the one we've selected is 38 seconds. But you may find that you're making a recording which is, let's say, 3-4 minutes. Okay. What you do is you select this loop track. What this does is that at the end of the soundtrack, it simply just, restarts like a loop. Then the other thing you could do is you want to reduce the volume here, the intensity, the gain of the background sound. Because remember, we're going to make a sound over, but you don't want the background sound to actually now overpower you, the content that you're giving to your students. So to do that, you're simply going to slide this either to the left. Okay, so to do that, like I said, we are going to reduce the volume here using the slider. We can preview this again. So it is much lower. If it is, when you push it to the right, it's much louder. So we want it just a little bit softer. I think that is good. Then you click that. You click yes. So now if we go back to preview what we've done so far, let me get back here to the very start, and then click play, just play. I don't know if you hear that, but it's sounding nice. It's perfect. Eh? Okay, that is perfect. So now we have the background sound in there. I'm not saying you're always going to look for these funky sound, soundtracks. Like I was saying, you have to choose something appropriate. There are a number of genres here that you could look through. If you're doing something a bit more serious, you could, choose one of these ambient ones. If you're doing something exciting, you choose that. And sometimes you could also choose to not include it. Okay. So usually we use this when you're doing things like commercials, when you're doing things like short animations on, let's say, a particular something new, like a framework you developed, something exciting where you want people's attention captivated. However, for something like a serious class, okay, you're doing 5 minutes, 6 minutes of serious work, mathematics, for example, you may not want to distract someone too much with this, with the background sound. Okay, so we're done with that. The other option I wanted us to look at, the background options. I don't know if I showed you how this works, but I'll do so right now. You just click here, and then you have these various options. So if we chose this, for example, and you click OK, you see how that changes. Let's give it a few seconds. Okay. So now this is bringing us to, a traditional Blackboard. For those of us who went to these schools, at Blackboard, primary school feeling. Now, following the principles, the design principles, if you chose, I'm not saying don't do this, but I'm saying if at all you chose to use a dark background, for example, this, at least what you should do is make sure that the content you have is going to properly contrast with the background. So I'm going to come over here and just illustrate that concept. So if I choose something white or something bright, for example, give it a second. Let me choose this. Actually, this is now a very good example of why you should avoid these background colors. Okay, because now we are going to need to find a color that is so bright that can actually contrast with that background. You get? And you can see that so far from the tries that I've made, it's not really looking good. Okay, so what you can do is you simply get back here. Let us go back to the white. After all, it is a whiteboard animation. You click that, and now you can see things are much better. Just give it a second. You see, it's much better. In fact, even the yellow contrasts well with the white. But that's not our theme color, so we are going to double click that. We'll go to the edit text, and then we select a color over here and choose the right blue. You click OK. Give it a few seconds to load, and boom, we are back in business. So the other important bit to these whiteboard animations is now we have the video, we have the images, we have the motion going on. but now we need the voiceover. I already have some bit of this, the background sound, but now we want to give it that human element, to give it the teacher, the instructor, the lecturer touch. And to do that, there are various ways to do it. One, you see like we added this text file over here. You could use, like I showed you, an audio editing tool like Audacity. So you prepare your content beforehand, you record yourself talking. Perhaps it's usually a good habit to have a script when you're going to do things like this. So prepare a script. That script can be extracted from maybe the PDF that you're going to teach, the PDF of the content you're going to teach on that particular day. Record yourself talking for about, let's say, usually want to keep the things under 5 minutes. And the reason for that, as you already know, is you want to minimize the space that you use on the learning management systems. You want to make this content shareable because, students use, not everyone is basically going to be able to accommodate or to afford the data that would sort of, move these big chunks of files, something like 100 MBs. You don't want to have a file that's 100 MBs. You want to keep it light. You want to keep it around 20 MBs, 30 MBs or less. So in case you had a pre-recorded file, you'd simply get up to this point. You go to the bottom left, then you see import MP3. So you click that. Let me use this example. Okay. So you have a voice. I have a voiceover over there. I'll click open. And then when I play it, okay, I don't know if you hear that.
This growing training video is brought to you by the National Groundnut Improvement Project. Introduction. Groundnuts, also known as peanuts, are highly nutritious.
Okay, so that's just an example. Now, in that case, this is now option 1. You'd click yes. The challenge you're going to have now is you're going to make sure that everything syncs with what you already designed. Let me illustrate that. So if I click play here, you will hear the audio in the background. Okay. So you have to make sure that the video, that the animation that you've created, follow perfectly the sound that you have in the background. And usually this is not, it's not an easy thing, especially for someone who has just gotten into this animation world. So what I normally advise the lecturers, instructors, people who are new into this, is instead of using a background, it's a background, a recording, a pre-recording. Okay, just use one of these files. So let me see. Use one of the soundtracks. Let's make some edits here. Let us reduce the intensity, reduce the volume. Click OK. Then what you do instead, you just use the voiceover feature. Okay. Now the voiceover feature allows you excuse me. The voiceover feature allows you to say exactly what you want to say as you're also following the animations in real time. So for example, what you want to do is come over here, this icon, the voiceover icon, you click it. We already see the animation over here. You're going to select the microphone here. Like I said, normally if you're using a laptop, by default, unless your laptop has an issue, you're going to get the default microphone that is embedded within your laptop. If you're using a headset, if you're using a webcam, if you're using anything that's external to your laptop, make sure you click, select it. Because usually one challenge people normally have is, I've been clicking and I'm recording, but I don't hear anything. The reason you're not hearing anything is because you've not selected the appropriate microphone. So you also make sure you click play scribe on record. This is going to allow you play the current scribe you have, okay, the current animation you have, and allow you now voice it, if that makes sense. Now, we are going to do exactly that. So now let's say I'm going to click here. Where is my webcam? So I now click here and it's going to start playing. Give it a few seconds. Countdown. Hello there. Today we shall study rapid e-content development. In today's class, we have objectives, and the very first one is an introduction to e-content or digital content. Our second objective of the day is to learn about multimedia. Our third is to learn about the tools out there that you can use to digitally design some of these content types. The fourth objective would be to learn about the principles of design. These are going to guide us through everything that you're going to do moving forward. And lastly, we have an assignment. So let's get started. The introduction to digital content. Now, it's a bit slow, like I said, you see now it's a bit slow. Whatever I'm going to say wouldn't exactly fit into that. So you can first stop, okay? Give it some time to process, and also give it, like I said, you always want to preview. Make sure you listen to what you've done. Never move about 3 minutes without stopping, because you never know when you make a mistake. So now we can test our voiceover. Principles of design. These are going to guide us through everything that you're going to do moving forward. My apologies. Let me restart this. I thought you could hear. Lastly, we have an assignment. So let's get started. The introduction to digital content. Now, it's a bit slow, like I said, you see now it's a bit slow. Whatever I'm going to say would count down. Hello there. Today we shall study rapid e-content development. In today's class, we have objectives, and the very first one is an introduction to e-content or digital content. Our second objective of the day is to learn about multimedia. Our third is to learn about the tools out there that you can use to digitally design some of these content types. The fourth objective would be to learn about the principles of design. These are going to guide us through everything that you're going to do moving forward. And lastly, we have an assignment. So let's get started. The introduction to digital content. Now, I don't know, I hope everyone had that clearly. So that is just a dry run. Okay, it was the first attempt at this. So from that, at least we've known that at this point, let me first play it. Hello there. Today we shall study rapid e-content development. In today's class, we have objectives, and the very first one is an introduction. Okay, so there's a delay here. I will simply go to this point. I'll go to the board, reduce some of the time there. Okay, I'll also reduce the time with the transition here. Click OK. I've also noticed that for each of these bullets, we are wasting a lot of time here, so I'll reduce those. I'll get over to the next one, reduce the transition time, go to the next one. Click OK, do this, go to the next one. Reduce that. It's okay. At this point here, I remember I had a lot to say, so I could give it a pause. Let's say 2-3 seconds. That's okay. So go to this very first one. It was unnecessarily long. So I give it 2 seconds. I give it transition just half a second. So I'm being a bit fast, but I imagine that things which were now, they should be a walk in the park. And if not, at least there will be recordings, and I'm always available to help in case you need some guidance. So now, Let me also give it some more time here and say that. So now let's go back to the voiceover. Let's try to do it again from the top. I'll go to the voiceover icon, click it. I make sure I have my microphone selected. Apologies for the funny sound. I'm using a webcam and I'm trying to be as close to it as possible. Earlier in the day, I know we had some issues with the audio, but I don't want to go through that again. So we are going to click the record button. It will take some time, load, then give us a countdown, which we shall wait for, and then start. So, hello there. Today we shall learn about rapid e-content development. For this session, we're going to have a look at the introduction to e-content, or rather known as digital content. We're going to have a look at multimedia. We're going to look at the various types of multimedia, hypermedia, and then we'll look at the digital design tools. These are tools that you shall use to create some of these content types. We shall look at the principles of design, which are going to be really helpful moving forward. And then lastly, we shall have an assignment which you can do on your own. So let's get started. We're going to look at the introduction to e-content. One challenge to online instruction is finding the most appropriate way to deliver content to students as if you were physically together in a classroom. Like you can see here, using a laptop is pretty different from actually teaching in a classroom setting to the left. Now, the various content types we have are images, the text files over there. We have graphics. We've got audio and also video. Now, okay, that's where it ended. So I'll stop here for now. And then we're going to also give it some time to process, let it render, and then we'll play the preview and make sure that everything is in sync with what the voiceover is in sync with the animation. Okay, perfect. Let me try it again. So, hello there. Today we shall learn about rapid e-content development. For this session, we're going to have a look at the introduction to e-content, or rather known as digital content. We're going to have a look at multimedia. We're going to look at the various types of multimedia, hypermedia, and then we'll look at the digital design tools. These are tools that you shall use to create some of these content types. We shall look at the principles of design, which are going to be really helpful moving forward. And then lastly, we shall have an assignment which you can do on your own. So let's get started. We're going to look at the introduction to e-content. One challenge to online instruction is finding the most appropriate way to deliver content to students as if you were physically together in a classroom. Like you can see here, using a laptop is pretty different from actually teaching in a classroom setting to the left. Now, the various content types we have are images, the text files over there. We have graphics. We've got audio and also video. Now, okay, that's where it ended. So, I think that is pretty good. So, because for the sake of time, I won't stop there. And I'm assuming now that you've had, some animation that's about 3 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes long. The other thing is, my advice to you is try not to cross the 5-minute mark, because usually the longer the duration of the animation, the heavier the file. And you already know the issues to do with storage and transmission of some of these learning resources. You want to keep it as light as possible. So I advise that you keep it as short as possible. And the other reason for that is, depending on the machine that you have, the rendering time, which is what we're going to do next, may vary. It may be really long if you have a low-end machine. Unless maybe if your institution has a good machine, maybe that's when you can begin doing things like 10-minute animations, 15-minute animations. But again, I advise you could only do those if you're going to upload them to YouTube, but not something that you're going to upload to your learning management system. So now we assume we are done with this. What you want to do now is to to render this into a format that can be consumed by different devices, that can be uploaded onto the learning management system, that can be shared, across the various media forms. To do that, you're going to, you see this, it looks like a share icon. It looks like nodes interconnected over here in the top right corner. When you hover over it, you'll see download or publish Scribe video. So you click that. Once you're done with that, you'll have an option here. So in the newer version of Video Scribe, you have the option to brand your video. And as you know, branding is really important when it comes to digital content. You don't want people to use your content for free. You don't want people to steal your content and not give you credit for something that you've worked so hard on. So you could add the logo over there, like you can see I've done, and you can even see in the background that the logo has already been added to the video. So whatever happens as the video is moving on, the logo will stay fixated in that point. Now, once you're done with this, you're going to choose the format here. Okay, so you can either download it as a PowerPoint, you can download it, you can share it on Vimeo. Vimeo is another streaming site like YouTube. You can get a share link or embed the code. This could be helpful if you're going to use it on a website. However, in this case, what you want to do is to download the video. So this is the first option you use. The very first option is what you're going to click. You click that. Now we get to the properties. So earlier in the day, I told you about the various the video type, video and animation. So we have this, like I told you, we have the lossless ones, we have the compressed ones. Now we have the Windows WMV, we have QuickTime MOV, we have the AVI image sequence, and then JPEG image sequences. What you want to go for is QuickTime. Okay, so much as QuickTime is usually a better place for people in the Mac, in the Apple world, it is also a nice compressed video format that is good, at least for file that you're going to keep on an LMS, for file that you're going to share around. It's going to sort of try to keep it as small as possible. Then over here, you're going to look at now the dimensions. So some of you, people who normally download movies, you've had things like, it's a standard DV, it is SD, a standard, what is it? Definition, you have high definition, you have ultra high definition, and things like that. So the higher the dimensions, just remember, is the heavier the file. You don't want to keep it unnecessarily big. So for instance, in this case, this file is good at 720 pixels. Okay, at 720, which is the standard HD dimensions. Making it bigger does not really give you anything extra. Because for example, you're just drawing, illustrations, you have just lines and strokes and things like that. It would only make sense if you are doing, you are preparing a recording where you're actually recording your voice and your face, or maybe yourself drawing somewhere. Now, I imagine we shall have some other time to train you through that kind of recording. But in this case, you don't really need those extra pixels, okay? The standard is already enough. The frame rate, again, is enough. 25 is the standard frame rate for animations, actually even most movies. Doing 30 is good, doing 50, doing 60 is good. It's just overkill. It is unnecessary, really. So what we want to do here is rapid, what did we call it? We could say maybe this is, no, okay, let's just call it that. Let's assume it. Yes, rapid e-content development, okay? Let me change that. Now you want to click here and select exactly where you want to save your file. Because it's a good habit to keep your things organized and keep them in the same place. So I'll say Whiteboard Animation. I'll call it. For that, I'll call it rapid e-content development, maybe class. I'm assuming this is your class. So when you're done with that, you select the folder and then you click that. Now, this is why you'll know the power of your computer. If your file is long, if, for example, you're doing something past 5 minutes. The rendering at this point is going to take really, really, really long. The machine I'm using right now is an i7 7th generation. And for those who don't understand those specifications, it's a very powerful machine, okay? But it's going to take some time to render this file. So you can imagine if you're using, let's say a dual core. I know some of you have machines. We have someone who got a machine from Germany in 2006, but he insists that it's the best machine out there, not knowing that that machine cannot handle some of the tools that we have right now. So this may take about 5 minutes to finish rendering. His machine, I think, would take probably an hour to render something which is just 1 minute long. So in the meantime, as it renders, I think I will welcome some questions. I think I see I am running out of time. But we can chat as it takes its time to render. So should I assume that everyone can create this? Because we'll actually have an assignment, I think. You'll have an assignment for creating some of these animations, whiteboard animation. Is Madame Helen still online? At least she kept asking me about things here and there. Oh, I think I lost her. Mr. Mwenjeri, are we good?
I can say we are somewhere. Not bad, but I think we need some time maybe to digest and see through it again. So I think we will take up from where you have reached and try to build the remaining parts. But at least we have a good beginning.
Okay, at least that is promising. That's good to know. Anything from Susan?
Hello.
Yes, Miss Balaba.
Hello, I'm available.
Okay. So far, is everything clear? Was I too fast? Do you need time? Do you need more training? Did you successfully download Video Scribe?
Video. A bit too fast, but I think it is.
Yes, I did. I downloaded Video Scribe.
Oh, okay. So for Mr. Abbas asking about whether the software is there a free version. So currently there isn't one that I can recommend. The whiteboard animation has sort of just gotten onto the scene, so the competition is pretty high, and at the moment, most of the tools around, at least you have to pay for them. Okay, and the license for this is around, I think, $70 a month, $70 a year.
No, it's 14.
It's 14 a month.
Yes.
Yes.
It's 14 a month, and I'm wondering, do you use animations in your classes?
Yes, we do.
Oh, okay.
So, hello there.
But it looks like
about graphic content development.
Yes,
looks like it. I think it's a good thing, but it takes time. Yes, you really need to take time to come up
develop.
with. Yes.
That is precisely what I was saying. Usually you just want to create these for particular concepts that you feel you want to expound on, you want your students to understand way better. than maybe through a PDF or through a PowerPoint. Okay, it is also something which you can do pre-hand, beforehand, like, you may not be around for a certain class and you feel there's something you want to explain. So you just create a simple animation, explain it, upload it, and that is it. It's more like creating a PowerPoint, but this time a PowerPoint that moves, if that makes sense. And also for the start, it looks a bit complicated, but with time, you get used to it. And it's much, much faster.
I can't wait.
Someone said he can't reach what?
I can't wait to learn it very fast and do it like the way you are doing it.
Of course.
To know the skills and developing a content within a night and presenting it the following.
For now, of course, this is the very first time you're looking at it. That may not be possible, but with time, it becomes easier. So for example, I spent about 30 minutes just designing that first screen, okay? But most of what, we have, I think, let me play it here so that we see the items we have there. We have the heading, we have a picture here, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 lines, okay? Now, even if you're not really good at design, you know that this did not take someone a very long time to create. If you're conversant with this software, this would not take you, it wouldn't even take you 10 minutes, okay? Similarly, if you're designing a PowerPoint presentation, okay? Because you're used to it, because you've been doing this for the last maybe 10, 15 years, you'll simply open PowerPoint, new slides, title page, you enter that, you move on to the next one. This is something close to that. It is animation, but it is not even at intermediate. It's not even at intermediate level. It is the basics, but at least it gets something. It helps you to represent information exactly how you want it in the fastest, simplest way possible. So I wanted to show you what we've designed so far. The render was done. So if you go over here.
So hello there. Today we shall learn about rapid e-content development. For this session, we're going to have a look at the introduction to e-content, or rather known as the
unfortunately,
look at multimedia.
I didn't produce the background sounds.
We're going to look at the various types of multimedia.
But at least we already know how to do that, and
these are tools that we shall use to
prevent that the animation is going on and the sound is synced.
We shall look at the principles of design, which are going to be really helpful moving forward. And then lastly, we shall have an assignment which you can do on your own. So let's get started. We're going to look at the introduction to e-content. When students run an instruction, finding the most appropriate way to deliver content is treated as if we were physically together in a classroom. Like you can see, using the laptop is pretty different from actually teaching in a classroom setting to the left. Now, the various content types we have are images, the text files over there. We have graphics, we've got audio, and also video. Okay,
yeah, right.
That's where it ended.
So far, that is what we created. It is 1 minute long. So, any other clarifications or challenges? I know it's a bit intimidating right now, but it is something that you can get the hang of with time.
Hello, sir.
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, please. I think one point I would need one more clarification is just like how if it were to be a PowerPoint, how you insert a new slide. This one, how do you do it in such a way that the second page of the slide, like how a PowerPoint will give you, that's the point I would need further clarification. Thank you.
Okay, let me demonstrate that in a bit. So, okay, now this is the very last part of our slide. Let us assume this is the last part of our slide. Okay, what you want to do is click away from any of the elements you have on screen. Okay, think of this white background as a piece of paper and you want to move down. So you simply click part of that paper and drag it up like that. If it's not yet done, you click again and drag up. Now we have a new, what you would call a new slide. Right now we would say digital content types. We give it the color we need. Say that. We go look out for the font that we needed. We click that. We align it in the middle. Click yes. You can resize it a bit so that it's more pronounced. And then you set the camera. So now if we go back, if I select this and preview, that we expect.
The most appropriate way to deliver content is students as if we were physically together. In fact, it's pretty different from that to the left. Content types we have images, the text files over there. We have graphics.
Okay.
We have graphics. We've got audio and also video. Okay.
And then we have that.
That's what it ended. So
let me first remove this.
we have graphics, we've got audio and also video. Now, okay, that's where it ended. So,
okay, so does that answer your question? I hope I tried to do that much better than I explained before. Is there any other issue? It could be with the properties of the elements on there. It could be with how we play around with the transitions, with the time, how we synchronize it with the voice, how we save, how we export the image, anything along those lines. So are there no more questions? Because from my end, I think I'm done with the session. So, okay.
So thank you very much, Colin. Since there are no more questions, I think we can close for today.
Okay.